Hello, this is Story Nexus. David J with Kyle from Bluemooncomics. Say what's up, Kyle.
How's it going?
Everything is going very well. Um, so I brought you on today. You are one of, I'd say, one of the top people that I know when it comes to X-Men comics. Why don't you kind of give me an idea of what got you into comics and how you've acquired your knowledge so far?
Um, well, I read as a kid some, and I really didn't start getting back into it until maybe 2018, I think. Is sort of when I started getting back into comics. I left for a long time. I just was interested, and every once in a while I'd go back and read something, and sort of something would bring me back to a book or two, and then I'd dip out again. But since about 2018, I've been going, every Wednesday morning when the comic shop opens out there. We got actually a pretty good group of us at Blue Moon that go out every Wednesday. There's probably about, I don't know, 8 or 9 regulars that show up Wednesday morning when it opens.
Right.
And then I think throughout the day, I think, it's just kind of grown from there. It started out with just like a few of us, and now it's grown to quite a few people.
For sure.
Don't want to miss their
For
books.
sure. The
So,
Wednesday Warriors is strong in San Rafael. I'm not sure. You know what?
yeah.
I don't know if that is something that exists in every town or every comic book store. Is the Wednesday Warrior something that exists everywhere, or is it just
I'm
select?
sure certain places have it. Like I know in the city, some of those places do pretty well. What's that toy shop that's near like the art school?
Mm,
I think every Wednesday they get just inundated with people
yeah, I know they have.
showing up for their
Well, I know
books.
there's Cape and Cowl, but that's in Oakland, correct? Cape and
I
Cowl.
think that's in Oakland.
That
Yeah,
one's in Oakland. That's a big
yeah.
store. I haven't even gone there yet, but
So I've
I've
heard.
heard.
I've never
Yeah,
been
yeah.
there.
Right. And then I know they have in Berkeley, they have Fantastic Comics. It's a really small store. The guy that does the store there, he actually is on YouTube quite a bit and on Wednesdays for sure. What is something that you do to decide what books you want to get compared to the books you don't want to get? Is it just trial and error? What brought you to that understanding? Because I know what brought me there, and I'll get into that. But first, let me hear like what kind of how you led yourself to the books you want and the books you don't.
Well, I'm like when I was getting back into it, I'm a big Spider-Man fan, and so I started kind of getting back slowly with Spider-Man. I've since left the book in its current iteration, but
You're not
really,
alone.
it's like looking at sometimes it's trial and error. Sometimes you start with like a number one, maybe go for a couple issues and see if it's for you. And if it's not, I just drop it. As far as like getting back into the X-Men, I didn't have much interest in the X-Men until the advertisements in the books for Hickman writing
Right,
the whole Hawks and Pox.
right,
And then I've just kind of rode that wave since it started
yeah.
because I wasn't reading it at the time, and I haven't read it in a long time since before then. So, and I just so I rode the wave there. And then when it comes to other books, it's just sometimes it's the artist, sometimes it's the writer, um, or a combination of the both. So there's certain writers I'll always try out typically. And other ones maybe I'll just give it a shot, or if the art looks good, I'll try it, and if it's not for me, I'll just dip out. So, and I encourage people to do that more. If they want to try a book, try it. Don't I think a lot of people get bogged down in pre-ordering stuff, and maybe they don't like it, and they get kind of stuck with it. So, if it's something you're not into, don't read it, and it helps. The people that are making the books, if the company's making them, if it's not selling,
Right.
they won't make it if it's not good. So there's no reason to buy something, especially when it comes to like Spider-Man. If you don't like Spider-Man, don't buy it. If you hate it, don't hate read it. It doesn't. I
Right,
don't think
right.
that does any good for anybody.
Don't just buy them just for YouTube channel now, because that ain't gonna do no good. But you know what though, I do
Yeah.
feel like we're at a weird point. I think we're at a weird point when it comes to Marvel. I feel like a lot of the stories, it doesn't matter who's buying them. I feel like they don't care. They're going to keep putting it out. Maybe maybe it's either I look at it from a business point. I got a feeling that they said to Marvel, they said, "Hey, you have a certain amount of money that you can play with, right? You have a certain amount of money that will allow you to use for these books, okay? Now, do you want these books to have great writers, or do you want these books to have great artists, or do you want try to get like a combination of both? That's up to you. And they gave these editors these options of what it is they can do with the money. I really feel like that because you look at some of these books and they keep the same writers. There's no way that writer has sold. I know he hasn't sold, but they put him on another book. Most of the Stephanies go from book to book, but they're done in five issues. 5 issues is done. Restart the whole character again. They put another character. To me, it feels like they're gambling with the options with the art versus the writers, how much they pay them, or I don't know. It's a very confusing spot. I got back into comics. I can't say it wasn't the movies because it definitely was a big part of the movies. The movies brought out this nostalgia that I had. And my children are asking
Yeah.
me about the books, and they're saying, "Hey, Dad, what happens in this next movie line? Oh man, I remember that." And so I'm starting to pull out my old books, and
Yeah.
then I
Yeah.
go, "Man, you know what? Let me look back and see what it's like now, and let me go see if I can find some of those books. A little bit of that FOMO, which is, I mean, that's running through comics all day, night. FOMO is a huge thing. Fear of missing out, which is something that they
Yeah.
go through for sure. I had to learn the hard way. I went there and I selectively picked this, picked that, picked that. Oh, this one looks cool. That looks cool. I know the X-Men. Let me get this. Let me get this. And then I started reading them, and I'm like, what? I have no clue what the hell is going on. This is number 17. Like, yeah, the cover looked cool, but nothing, really caught my attention. So I'm done with this. Not realizing that the writers themselves, if you pick a writer that maybe you don't agree with, that character can be something that you don't even recognize, compared to another writer that you do like, and maybe he writes it
Yeah.
exactly like you
Well,
like it.
that's just the way it is. Different writers have different ideas for characters, and so it's if it's not a character, if someone's not writing a character the way you maybe that you thought about them in the past, um, or they've taken them out of character, or you're just not liking what the directions are going. It's just don't read it. It happens the same thing with Spider-Man.
Right.
Like I'll use that as an example, just because
It's a good
I
example.
wasn't a fan of the direction that Zeb Wells was going. And I gave Nick Spencer a lot of leeway when I was reading his book because I was enjoying it, even though a lot of it felt like there's a lot of legwork trying to rebuild from what Slott did for you know
Yep.
10 whatever years he was on it, 15 years. Um, but I gave him a lot of leeway because I enjoyed the character. But I think I got into like 5 or 6 issues on Zeb Wells, and I was like, okay, I'm done. And the thing is, like some writers they'll write certain characters better. So his Hellions, for
I
example,
loved Hellions.
Zeb Wells' Hellions
Yeah.
is a great book.
Hellions was, yeah.
And you could even use like a writer like Tom Taylor, who's at DC. His Nightwing, I love the book. It's a great book.
Right.
I wasn't a big fan of his Superman, Son of Kal El. His John Kent book, wasn't a fan,
Right.
but then he's done like Deceased. Deceased has been good. So it's just
Very good. Yeah.
some writers maybe they just don't have a good voice for a certain character.
Is
And the best thing to do is if you don't like it, just don't buy it because at some point in time, another writer will come around and maybe they'll pique your interest more.
For sure. For sure.
Um,
So do you think that's what it is? It's just because it's confusing to me. It really is confusing because there is those writers, and I think that you kind of alluded to one. All right. Tom King, actually both of them. Tom King and the other Tom. What's his name?
Tom
Tom
Taylor.
Taylor. Both of them, they've written books that I've been amazed by. Like, oh man, that's one of my favorite stories. I love that book. Like for instance, what's the guy that always he escapes all the time? He's uh, Darkseid's son. Um,
Oh, yeah, I
what's his
forget his
name?
name.
The escape guy. I forget. He's married to Big Barda. Oh shit, what's his name? Anyways, but he's written books that I've read, and I was like, this is just a great characterization of this character. And I think a lot of it too is those ideas of what this kind of person should be, what that kind of person should be, and them filling the roles of that idea. Like what should a husband be to his wife? How should she act in the characterization that you believe in? and he'll write it exactly how I enjoy it, or maybe a little tweak it a little here and there where I'm like, okay, I wouldn't do that, but it doesn't not go with the character. But then he'll turn around and do like you just said, take a Kal-El book and it's unnoticeable. You're like, wait a minute, like I don't recognize this. It's not Superman. Superman, no, like there was the second issue comes out and Superman goes, "Yeah, I felt like I was never at home and I didn't want to get my hands messed up and everybody get mad at me cuz I like what? No, Superman never felt like that. Superman always felt like he was a American and that he was from the planet Earth. I never felt like he ever felt different than that. In my limited knowledge, even though I've gone back and I've read a lot of these old stories and that's one of the like major things. He's taken on this planet as his own, not he's from
He's supposed to be the best of
the
us, right?
best of
That's the
us.
idea,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
He is like the image that I wish I could be, right? That ideal human being. And he never looked at it as, "Oh, I'm an alien from another place and it's not my space." So when he said that, it immediately shut me off. And I think sometimes that I've realized myself is that once a writer does that, I look for it almost in a bad way. And maybe it's bad, but I look for it and I'm like, okay, when's it gonna come up? When's it gonna come up? Especially with Tom Taylor, because like, man, it seems like he's gonna do it eventually. He's eventually gonna screw up this character. When's it gonna happen? You're waiting for that freaking bomb to drop. And the only one I can say that he definitely has not dropped the bomb was that other world. Most of his other world books are pretty damn
Or his
good. Yeah,
Elseworlds,
it's
the Elseworlds kind of
Elseworlds.
out
Yeah,
of continuity
out
books.
of
Yeah.
continuity is great.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, some writers are like that. Um, I know, like Tom King writes a lot of like typically out of continuity stuff since his Batman run. I think the only time he has since is Supergirl was in continuity, Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow,
Yeah.
and then obviously he's picking up Wonder Woman next month maybe, I think, and that's in continuity as
Is
well.
he? Isn't he writing?
Um,
Is he not? No. Who's one of them's writing? Teen Titans right now. Is it?
that's my well, Mark Wade's doing the world's finest
Yeah.
Teen
Yeah.
Titans, but there's another Teen
Yeah.
Titans, and I don't know who's writing that one at the
I
moment.
think it's.
I did pick up number one of Teen Titans, World's Finest Teen Titans. I liked it all right, but I didn't pick up number two.
I got
And I
number
think that
two.
came
I
out
didn't get
that
number one,
day.
so maybe we could switch off here. But no, I.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was okay. I mean, I enjoyed it enough, but it wasn't enough to keep me going. But like unlike World's Finest, just Batman Superman World's Finest
Oh
that he's
man,
doing, which I
that's a
love,
great
which
book.
helps.
Yeah.
It's a great written book, great looking book. Dan Mora on art, so
Hmm.
shout out to Dan Mora.
Yeah.
I like pretty much everything he's done.
Yeah.
So if you could pick up a Dan Mora book, any of them, Once and Future, Klaus, even his Power Rangers look great. I mean, he's just a
He's a great artist,
good
and
artist.
he's one of those artists that can do that, right? Like his art can raise up a level of a book. And
Yeah,
there's some artists that
yeah,
do
for
that. I
sure.
mean, I'm doesn't. Do you think of Frank Miller does that at times?
I think he used
Yeah,
to.
right. Not anymore. I don't know if did you get a chance to
I don't
see
think he's
that
done much writing. I don't think he does. I don't think his writing or his art is up to snuff anymore. But
that
that's okay.
that
I
Wolverine
mean,
cover?
he's done a lot for with what he did. So he was a revolutionary artist and writer.
Oh,
So
big time. And
um,
no disrespect, but my goodness, have you seen that Wolverine cover that he has out right now? Have you?
did he do a Wolverine cover
Oh
recently?
Lord, it was out today. It was one of the worst books I've ever seen. I'm gonna pull it up a little bit here, but it
Okay.
was, oh my goodness, son. I was just looking at it like, did no, this looks like a teenager did it in like math class, and he wasn't supposed to. You know what I mean? And he tried to do it real fast.
Mhm.
Like it's bad. It's really bad. But let's get into other things now. Let's get back into the X-Men.
All right.
Okay, so I I got back into comics probably midstream of um of Hodgepodge, whatever it was, the Powers of X and House of X.
Mhm.
I came midstream, and oh my goodness, I felt like I stumbled onto something great, something that just was like outstanding, right? I loved it. Jumped on it, got every book that I could, tried to get back all the books I could, picked up the whole thing, read it, and then it got into the Swords of X, right? Is that what it was? Swords of X?
Yeah, Ten of
Ten
Swords.
of
Yeah, yeah.
Swords. Ten of Swords. So we're going through Ten of Swords, and midway through it, all of a sudden, it just felt like the book took a turn, and it felt off. It felt off. The X-Men books all of a sudden started to feel off. And then there was the big announcement that Jonathan Hickman is done. He's going to be gone for a while, or he's not coming back. He's done. He wasn't able to do what he wanted to. Everybody voted. They wanted to stay. He didn't want to. And I was still like, well, I'm still going to give it a shot. I'm still going to try because, hey, he probably gave them the blueprint, right? Of what to go, where to
I
go.
think it was more along the. I don't think he left because he was disappointed with everything. I think it was Marvel and the writers that were on other books were really enjoying this gravy train because they were selling
Right.
like hotcakes. And I think he was kind of like, well, I don't have anything else to write, but he did. He wrote the Bible. He kind of was in a sense, he was like the editor of the whole line until up until he left. And I think it really was just more of they wanted to continue going, and he didn't really want to, so he just like politely stepped aside and let other writers take the front. And after that, we got, I think after Ten of Swords, we had Gillen, Kieran Gillen, Cy Spurrier, and Al Ewing came on writing the some of the better books. I
I
think
agree. Yeah, there was a couple good.
from the whole
There was
thing.
like a couple bright spots, and then there was a couple dark areas. Right, the bright spots to me were the Immortal X-Men, the
Mhm.
X-Men Red. Both those books were stayed pretty good. I felt. What are your What are your feelings? Because again, um, you stayed on board with all these books, right? Or pretty much.
For the most part, I dropped off of New Mutants when Rod Rice was no longer on art because his art elevated that book
Mm,
quite a bit.
okay. What
Uh,
was his name?
and Rod Rice,
Rod Rice.
Reis, so Rod Rice, great artist.
Okay.
Very like he was kind of channeling his inner Sienkiewicz and just kind of
Mm,
having fun. It seemed like he was doing fun things with the book at the time.
yeah.
Once he left, I forget who the writer was that was on it at that time.
Was it the? It was
So I dropped it at that
the
point.
one girl. Oh man.
Yeah, the one woman, I forget her
Yeah.
name. I can't
It starts
remember her
with a
name.
V.
I'm just blanking on it.
Something.
Oh, Vida Ayala.
VDIL. Yeah. Which
Yeah,
I'm not
and
a
so I
fan.
was really enjoying it when she was writing it,
Mm.
and he
Oh,
was
he
on the
did.
art. But and then another one. So the Marauders. I was really enjoying Marauders when Duggan was on it, and when they brought it back with Steve Orlando. I went through the first arc, and then I dropped it.
Yeah. Steve
Um,
Orlando has a way to heavy-handedly put in the characters he enjoys writing.
I mean, that's fine. I don't have a
Right.
problem with that necessarily. I mean, if
Each his own.
it's your book, you get to do what you want
True.
and write who you want to write and who you think you're best writing it. I just did the story didn't captivate me the way that Duggan's original.
Right.
I guess it was maybe 20 issues or something, 20 something issues before he took over X Men.
Well,
Um,
he's the one that wrote that character. Was it Somnus or something where the guys like fall asleep and he like date rapes them while they're sleeping, and it was really weird. That was a really weird point, and I think that was one of the big stop points for me. You know what I'm talking about? Was it Somnus?
if it's Somnus, what are you
Yeah.
talking
Is
about?
that his
I
name,
don't
Somnus?
know.
Right? Yeah. He's like a
I know Somnus,
yeah.
yeah,
He's like a date raper
but I
guy.
don't think he was date raping
Well,
people, was he?
explain it to me better then, because the way I understood him, again, let me just say it. I'm not. I.
This
Yeah.
is oh, this is you're talking. This is the Marauder stuff, right?
Right.
The
Correct.
Yeah.
So you know what
I
I'm
don't know if
talking
that came
about.
after I stopped reading.
You didn't know. You know what I'm talking about. But anyways, let's digress. So some of the books, again, they were they were written in a way that to me personally, again, just me personally, I did not enjoy the book. It did not feel authentic to the life of the X-Men, and it also felt like there was no more stakes. Right? They died, they're reborn. There was no, the villains were pretty much gone, but then they weren't, but then they were. Like, this book never has one book to the
Well,
next book. Right? Go ahead.
it was a way for them, like the whole initiative. The Krakoa era was supposed to be like a, a new frontier for them. So yeah, you had the villains that they used to have joining them, but you have new villains as well. So obviously Orcus being the big one.
Right.
Um, which was kind of made an enemy of the Avengers at the same time at this point. Um, so you had kind of new enemies created, and I think it was a way of, because it's the same point. The problem with the X-Men line, especially lately, before Hickman took over, was like, if you're okay with the Avengers, why aren't you okay with the X-Men? It makes no sense.
Mm. What do you mean by
You know,
that?
they've all got powers.
Like,
Like if the normal Marvel, you know, citizen living in New York is okay with the Avengers, why do they hate mutants and the X-Men? It makes no sense.
that's a very good point.
Um, so they had to give a reason for planet Earth to kind of view the mutants as sort of a, you know, an outside thing again. And I think Krakoa did that, and it did. He made them, you know, and it was very deliberate. Everything that Hickman set up, it was supposed to be, they were creepy sex cult that
Do you
that
think that
can't
was,
die.
you know, that's a good point, because that's
Absolutely,
a,
but there were
go ahead.
certain
No, go.
characters that were still written in character. Cyclops being still in character,
Yeah, but he was a little,
Wolverine still being in
he's a
character.
little cucked, I think, don't you? You know, Wolverine's living with them. It felt weird. That felt weird to me. I didn't.
I don't care. It's fine. I mean, Jean Grey's whatever. She's doing whatever,
Yeah, I
and it's
know.
fine. Well,
I
it's clearly like there were allusions to, like, he's sleeping with Jean, Wolverine sleeping with Jean, but there was allusions to Cyclops also sleeping with Emma. And I think
That's true.
famously, he
That's true.
on Jonathan Hickman's Twitter, he said that, I think he said a group of crows is called a murder, and
Right.
he said a group of mutants is called an orgy, and that was clearly he made an orgy island, and they were a creepy sex cult
Right.
for, at this point it's still going on until until the fall, I guess. So
No.
um,
So that's, you think this was that actually kind of blows my mind a little bit, because I haven't heard that spin. You think that everything was meant to be drawn out the way it was, and they weren't made
oh
to
yeah,
look at these mutants as themselves. They're made to be a little off.
not all of them. There was definitely like things that were going on sort of um, throughout the run. So Xavier was mostly in character, but he's still like Xavier, and Xavier's still kind of like a horrible person, right?
Right.
Like he has great ideals, but he himself can never live up to his own ideals. Um, you know, obviously, like Magneto, like you had like the three big people, like you had Magneto, Apocalypse, Xavier, all joined together, which was I think it was a great idea. I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
I just, you know, some people were written out of character, some people, but it was kind of like a, look at what we've created. This is cool. Let's continue doing this.
Right.
No, I know some people don't like it, but here's the thing. Like I was thinking about is, if you don't like this current era of X-Men, there are two books out right now that are written in the past, and that is, there's a Storm
Yes.
miniseries
Yes.
by
Very
Ann
good.
Nesenti, and
Yes.
there's a Magneto
Yes.
mini by J.M.
Yep.
DeMatteis. And I
Yep.
have a few issues with the Magneto run, but the
Well,
Storm one's
okay.
great.
Explain to me, because I am not a, you know, like, I have, honest, to be honest with you, I have been reading all the past eras of X-Men,
Yeah,
and I even read, you know, where Magneto becomes a baby. They bring him back,
right.
and then he's not a
Yeah, yeah.
baby, and they're going through that process of, okay, he's this now, he's OP. He comes in there and just fucking kicks out, beats their ass, right? It's the new iteration of the X-Men. Magneto's in there, he whoops that ass, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
I'm there. So tell me, what brings us to this iteration that they have in that book, where he's now a leader of the X-Men, right? And I think that's in,
Well, he's been a leader in the past, and
okay,
that's one of my favorite stories. So I think I can't remember who made the point, but there was somebody who made the point that the reason you read in the '80s, you're reading Claremont's X-Men run, was for Magneto was the main reason to read it. He was basically like, in a sense, the main character of that book. You read it because you wanted to see what Magneto was doing,
it's true.
and I think Headmaster Magneto was a great story. I really enjoyed it, especially because Charles is such a, I mean, God love him, God hate him at the same time. He's such a kind of a piece of shit.
Well, you know,
Love Charles, but
yeah.
he's a he's
Did,
kind of
did you
horrible
ever feel? I kind
at
of
the
felt
same
like,
time.
they didn't know what exactly they were going to do with him, right? Like in the
Yeah, they
beginning.
sent him to Shi'ar and
Yeah,
whatever.
right.
He was married to Lalandra or whatever it was, and then yeah, Magneto kind of took up the mantle and sort of reformed himself. And I love that story. I love that era. Um, and so, like I said, you have two books right now. If you don't like the current iteration of X Men, you got two books right now, and no one's reading them. But if you like the old X Men, pick up Storm, pick up Magneto. Try to disregard the retcon that James DeMatteis wrote, because
Right, now
the
explain that.
retcon's
That's
not
what I was
great.
going to get at. Explain that. because I
Well, the
don't
retcon
understand
is
it.
that he's retconning a previous retcon. So Claremont wrote a really great book. I think it was X-Men 150 called I Magneto that kind of explains what like the reason why Magneto in X-Men #1 uh, was a horrible person. And so it sort of he explained it as he kind of had like a mental breakdown, like he lost his wife and his daughter, and all kinds of, obviously he was in Auschwitz during the during his youth. So he's a man who's got serious baggage, and it kind of all coalesced into X-Men #1, the original X-Men that Stan Lee wrote. But I think it was Chris Claremont wrote. I think it's called I Magneto. It's a great book. The problem with this one is that J.M. DeMatteis then retcons it to be like, I don't know. I won't give it away, but
No, it's
there's a
fine.
little bit of retcon.
It's fine. Go ahead.
It's fine. I don't care because it's a well written book. He's a great writer, and the book looks great and it's fun.
It is.
It's a fun read.
So
So
okay, I'm reading those books, so I'm trying to understand what you're talking about. So he's in that book that I'm reading right now. Magneto is kind of the leader, right? But he's still kind of a dick. You know what I mean?
yeah, he
Like he's still
always he
kind of a
always will
dick.
be.
Like he's
I mean,
still
kind of. He still clearly cares. Like he's
right,
trying to
right.
turn over a new
Right,
leaf.
right. He's trying to be a good guy,
Right.
but he still has that. He's still kind of. I think it was the wolf girl,
He's
right?
an angry person, you could say, right? He's an angry person.
Well, he's no bullshit. He's not going to turn around to like
Yeah.
all of a sudden pamper these new mutants that are in there, right? These new mutants are there, and he's teaching them, and he's kind of like tricking them, right? They're in the danger room. They're not doing a real
The
fight,
danger room,
right?
yeah.
So the one girl comes up to him, and she's like, She's reading a story on him, right? And what Charles thought of him. And so he's sitting there and he's like, yeah, this is bullshit. This is not how it really was. Right. And
Hmm.
then the Wolfbane girl, right? Wolfbane, is that her name?
Yeah, Ron Wolfsbane.
Wolfbane,
Yeah.
right? So she's there and she's talking to him and she goes, so what is the story? Right.
Yeah, explain it to me. Right, yeah.
Explain it to me. Right. So and that's kind of, I'm trying to remember what the rest of it was. Can you fill it in? Do you remember?
Um I don't know if he even really explains it to her. He just kind of like, go to bed. I'm getting out
Yeah.
of here. He was
Something like that.
he's in
Right.
a bad headspace.
Right.
He's in a bad headspace. He's clearly like affected by, because like Charles is his oldest best friend in his
Right.
mind. So he's like,
Right.
he's not too happy, I don't think, with the words of Charles. So um, yeah, I don't know. It's a good book. I would recommend it to people who enjoy that era of X-Men. I certainly do.
I loved it. No, I
And
love
same
that
thing
book.
with the
Yeah.
Storm book. I'll give another shout out to the Ann Nesenti written Storm book, which is very much like a time capsule of the '80s, and it's a great book. It looks great. It's well written.
And you
I
think
really
that
enjoy it.
that highly depicts Storm in her in her actual state at that book when those were coming out,
I
right?
think so. Yeah, I
Okay.
think she's obviously, she's kind of trying out the rebellious thing. She's a leader of the X-Men because Cyclops left.
Right.
I believe he got married and went up to Alaska with Madeline Pryor at the time. He's like, I'm out of here. You're taking over Storm.
Right.
It's fun. It's kind of there's a team dynamic of like people aren't sure about Storm.
Right. Right.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I liked it personally. I liked
that's
it.
great.
I liked it also because you kind of feel that Storm is not this OP character like she is, but she's not. You know what I
She's not
mean?
yet
She still
like
has
the version
she
that she
has
is.
these like
Which, by the way, I love
vulnerabilities.
OP Storm. The
She's
the
great.
X Men
Yeah.
Red X Men. She's fucking
I
like, I
like it
think
too.
she's one of the standouts in the current era where she's just like a no nonsense character. She doesn't have time for people's bullshit and the politics. She's just like, she does what she thinks is right, and usually she's right herself, so it helps.
Right. And that was my first thing.
So
As soon as we got into, and we'll get into it, the gala. That was my first thought. Where the hell is Storm? So that's how you know that character is somebody
that
that
was
you're.
at the time that was happening. I don't know if you read. I think it was
No,
the X
no.
Men Red right before that.
Let's get into this then,
That
real
was
quick.
when
Real quick. Hold on, real quick.
Genesis. Yeah.
Let's
Okay.
get into it real quick. Okay. So we'll kind of set the theme, right? They have the
Yeah.
gala, right? Now the gala
Yeah.
the gala was something that I was never into. I got the first one and I read the second one. I'm never reading the shit again. And then all of a sudden they came out with one that was like blow your mind good. Okay. So I
Well, the first one was great because it was the planet-sized X-Men where they
yeah,
terraformed Mars. I loved it.
that no, I like that. I like the what happened from it. They picked the X Men and stuff. I didn't like the dresses and the this and that, and I wasn't into
No,
that.
I just give it like the artists get to have fun for like a day. Like it's cool.
Okay,
I think it's cool.
okay.
I think it's all right. Yeah, I mean, not everything looks good. Some of it's kind of weird and stupid, but at the same time, it's like
And then they
these
have
artists get to do something fun. They get to be creative for like more creative than they might normally be with outfits. So,
and then they got what's the guy that writes the producer? Um, he's in it. The producer of
oh, Kevin Feige.
Kevin
Yeah, they throw him
Feige's
in
in it.
there.
And I
They
was,
throw like I think Eminem shows up. It's
yeah,
fine. It's
yeah.
all in good
It is
fun.
good
It's
and
okay.
fun. Yeah, exactly, exactly. But it was nothing to the point where you're like must read in my mind. Okay, now it was okay.
Aside from Planet Size, I think Planet
Planet
Size
Size was
is in a way
yeah,
was a
but
must
that
read.
wasn't Hellfire Gala. That was Planet Size. That was different. So
It wasn't yet. I mean, it was taking place during that, but yeah, it
right,
wasn't the actual
right,
Hellfire
right.
Gala. I get it.
So again, I kind of shut off them, and then I watched one of these YouTube channels. I forgot what it was, and they start talking about what actually happened in the Hellfire Gala, and I'm like, oh shit! So I go back and end up picking it up, and here's what I got going on in my head. You're watching the gala, the Sins of Sinister, which I did read some of them, and you find out it got kind of convoluted to me. So how about we start right there? We're at this gala. Oh,
Yes, the first of the Fall of X, the Fall of
Fall of
X kind of
X,
idea,
number
which
one.
I was pretty obvious when when they had like the Dawn of X and the
Right.
Destiny of X and all that. It was pretty obvious that the Fall of X was going to happen at some point in time. Yeah,
So this big fat character they have going on here, who the is this Kingpin? I was trying to
Kingpin's
understand.
there. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so the big
That
guy, he's
sort
wearing
of
that belt kind of a deal in the
he's wearing
beginning.
like feathers, all kinds of yeah.
Yeah,
It's Kingpin. So he
weird.
that sort of kicked off at the Zdarsky's story, The Devil's Reign, where he was sort of kicked out of New York. He had gotten
Right.
married
Yeah, and he took off on a
to
sailboat,
Mary.
right? They took off on a sailboat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember that at the end of
Rode
that.
off to the sunset, and then since his wife Mary is a mutant, they were able to get amnesty on the island of Krakoa.
Ah,
So,
okay. So,
and then
okay, okay.
there was a fun little book. I think I don't. It might have been Jerry Duggan that wrote it, but there was a book during the Devil's Reign. It was an Emma Frost sort of led book about kind of her past relationship with the Kingpin, and it was
Mm,
drawn by I think it was drawn by Phil Noto, so it looked great. It's a great
noted.
looking
Yeah,
book.
he's a good
It's
artist for
fun.
sure.
Yeah, so it was a fun book, and so they kind of had these things going on. These are all things that have happened, it kind of set it up, and so it's kind of
Right.
fun to see the Kingpin kind of being a little,
Silly,
he's getting
fun.
amnesty.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's having fun
it's
out there.
fun.
Yeah, no, I get you. It was kind of cool. It
He's
wasn't
on
bad.
the beach at Krakoa.
Right.
Who would have thought he'd be drinking mai tais
Right.
on
For sure.
beaches
For
in
sure.
Krakoa after after being a horrible mayor of New York City? Yeah.
So I kind of feel like this is a hot take. I think that maybe it's not the only hot take, but um, they're building up Miss Marvel. I think here to save everybody. That's my thought.
Yeah, I don't know exactly. I
Well,
just know, like, obviously they killed her unceremoniously in the Spider-Man
right.
book,
Well, no, it was
and then
ceremoniously. If you don't, it was ceremoniously.
maybe
It just was
they obviously they
out of nowhere. Like
so I mean,
not even a Spider-Man
uh,
character. What the hell, you know?
and then like a week later they announced she's coming back, and I
Right.
was obviously it's just for synergy with the movie, the Marvels coming out, and I
Think
think in the
so.
show they kind of were like, hey, she's a mutant, and I do believe. Uh, and I may be wrong, but I think the original idea for her was she would be a mutant. I think G. Willow Wilson wanted to make her a mutant, but
Right, but yeah,
obviously
they didn't
they
have the
didn't have
rights,
the
right? Yeah.
rights, so they were like, "Oh, you got to do Inhumans," which is maybe the most unpopular group of characters that Marvel has.
Right, for sure.
So
Yeah, they where are they? They're not in the Hellfire Gala.
I
What
think
the
they're
hell?
all dead. I think
Yeah,
Donny Cates killed them all like
right.
4 years ago, so they're all dead
They're
except
all
for
dead.
like Black Bolt and Medusa and
Right.
Crystal. I think that's about it at this point.
Yeah. Black Bolt
So
always shows up when there's one big OP movement that needs to happen, and then he does it, and then that's it. Goodbye.
hey, he showed up in the Ultimate Invasion. I think wasn't he in the Illuminati when that was a Hickman book, another Hickman book
Yeah.
that's come out recently.
Yeah.
Series
No, I
Ultimate
love that
Invasion.
book too. That's a good book. That's a
It's
really
really
good
good.
book.
It's very good.
Yeah, and he goes through and yeah. Anyways, kind of. So okay, we get down to it, and it's who's the Rasputin here now? I'm confused. Now this is not magic. Um,
But she has some magic powers. So she's a chimera. She was originally introduced in the Powers of 10 that kicked off this whole event, this whole
okay.
this whole thing. She was a future chimera character that so she's got, I can't remember. You know, she's got Colossus powers. She's got
Right. Yeah.
magic powers. She's got Kitty Pryde powers. She's got, she's got telepath. I don't know which
Oh,
telepath thing. She might have been Quentin Quire. So she's she's a powerhouse.
she's
She's an insane.
OP for sure.
She's the entire team of X-Men all in one character. So she showed up in the original Powers of 10, and then they brought her back in the Sins of Sinister, where Sinister was making chimeras, I think, 100 years in the future or something like that. And that was one of the few characters, it was one of the few people that he was able to make that didn't have his DNA. Because I believe that all the chimeras that Sinister made with his DNA are all the ones that had that many powers were all kind of insane. So that was the only one. That was the reason why she doesn't have influence from Sinister.
Okay, good. I see. I didn't know that for sure.
So she shows up. It's kind of a fun little moment where she's like, "Hey,
she's dancing with
Kamala Khan.
Miss
You're
Marvel,
cool.
Yeah,
yeah, you're cool." And then I think there's a nice moment between Professor Xavier and Kamala Khan. It's kind of fun and cute where he's like, he gives her respect. He takes off his helmet because he pretty much never takes his helmet off in the Clone era.
Right.
So,
and they go through the thing with Dazzler, and this is when it starts kicking off. Okay. So they go through there, and then they show the new X-Men team, right? And the new X-Men team is built up of Talon, Cinch, which Cinch is
Sync, yeah.
Sync, my bad. Sync is the one that can anybody. He's near anybody, and he has their powers, right?
Yeah, and after he was resurrected after he died after the vault, right? When he came back from the vault, he became stronger. So he's an insanely powerful character.
He's from the vault too, right?
He went into the vault with the Darwin and X-23. Yeah.
Okay.
And that Talon is the very elderly X-23 they found in the vault that Forge got out.
Okay. I was confused on that too. That's okay.
Because they fell in love in the vault. When they were in the vault, they were there for thousands of years, and so
I get it. So they're a couple.
And they're a couple. And it was kind of fun in the original 12 issues, the first 12 issues, when they were on the team together, when it was the young, because there was a bit of a mistake. They didn't know that X-23 had died or was alive still in the vault. So they resurrected her thinking she was dead. So now you have a young Laura and an old Laura kind of at the same time.
Okay.
So he was on the team with a young Laura, but young Laura was like, "Stop looking at me." She didn't know that they were in love. So it's cool. That's all right. So they finally gave him the love of his life, I guess. So that's
got it. Okay. So then we have this other character. I don't like the way he looks. He looks stupid to me, but again, each his own. Who's the hell is Prodigy? I don't know this character. Maybe I do.
He's like he's a newer character, and I don't know like a whole lot about the Prodigy.
Okay.
To be honest with you,
he looks goofy to me. I'm not a big fan of the way he looks. I mean, whatever. And then there's Jubilee.
Well, to be fair, like they're in their stupid garb,
Right? No, that's true too. They're doing they're all dressed a little goofy. There's Cannonball. Now he's from the original, or not original? Is it original? New Mutants or no?
Who was it? No,
Cannonball.
Cannonball, yeah, he's the original one of the New Mutants. So.
Okay, that's what I thought. Right. Now explain his powers. I get a little. Is he the one that can?
Once he flies around and he flies around, he can't be stopped, kind of thing. Is the idea? He can fly and he can move really fast, and yeah.
Here's another one I don't know. Frenzy. Who the hell is Frenzy?
She's got like she could turn her body into like a spikes type thing. So
okay.
And she's been around.
Lady Deathstrike kind of deal.
Kinda. So but she's really strong and super durable. And I think I think she showed up for the first time in like X Factor in the 80s, I believe.
Okay.
So she's one of the old. She's an
older one.
She's been around a while.
I just don't remember her. I guess. Okay. I know Dazzler, of course.
80s or 90s or something like that. But she hasn't done like a whole lot. She just she shows up here and there, and yeah.
Gotcha. Then we got Juggernaut. Now it's probably the oddest character out of the group there. Why would they have a villain as a character? And I know they try to make him like this innocent guy in like the beginning where he's talking to Emma. He's talking to one of the characters and he's kind of pleading his case that he wants to become one of the X-Men, and they're like, "Oh, I don't know," but I mean, he's done some awful shit.
He's been. I mean, well, to be fair, like so is like
Yeah, true.
Apocalypse and Sinister is
Right.
was on the Quiet
Right.
Council. Yeah,
Right.
Sebastian
Exactly.
Shaw's still there. I mean,
Right.
it's
Yes.
okay. I mean,
Yeah.
he's not technically a mutant. He is, but he
Right.
is.
That's what I thought. He just has the crims of or the bands of Sidorak, right? Like this
Or it's
is
the crystal of
Crystal. Okay.
yeah.
Sidorak, whatever. Yeah.
But he is the stepbrother of Charles Xavier, so he's
Right.
kind of like he gets grandfathered in. He's been around long enough, yeah. So
Okay. They're like, okay. You're
he's
coming.
cool. He's all right. And they had like I think at the beginning of the Coco era, there was a mini series, like a 4-issue or 5-issue mini series that someone wrote for him, where he's kind of like trying to turn over a new leaf, and it's all right.
Okay. So then,
every team's got to have, if you're gonna be playing on the big stage, you got to have somebody who's a powerhouse as far as like strength and
for sure. No,
ability. So the Avengers have Hulk, the Fantastic Four have the Thing, and you can do the Juggernaut. That's all right.
yeah, he
Since obviously they don't have Rogue anymore, so
right. And he's
she's not on the team.
What happened to Rogue?
She was on the first iteration, the after the first Hellfire. She was on the first 12 issues, first year that the X-Men were together. She was there, and then she left, and I don't know. She's been kind of bouncing around. There's another miniseries going on right now called Rogue and Gambit. She's been doing that, and that has had some implications, a few implications on the story with because Destiny is her stepmother, or whatever she is. I'm kind of that's her mom, quote unquote mother, and obviously Destiny is very entangled with the whole Quiet Council and the whole story at this point.
So then we move forward, and one of the coolest things of this whole book is when anyways, let's go step by step. So we have immediately the robot, what the hell is his name? Nimrod comes there, and first person he takes on is Iceman, right? And Iceman
after killing most of the X-Men,
kills most of the X-Men. They're all gone. Yeah, like they announce them and they die in the next second, which is a great setup. I love that idea. And then they're fighting, and Iceman goes right after him and takes a chunk of the side of his head, kind of messes him up a little bit, and he's like, okay, and he puts like this hyperactive heat shit inside of him. He burns up and dissolves. Right, and then his boyfriend or whatever.
You think he's dead? Yes.
Think he's dead. He's freaking out. Boyfriend
who is an Inhuman. I forget.
Is that what he is? Inhuman? Bobby.
He's an Inhuman.
Oh no, Bobby's the name of Iceman. I don't know what this guy's
Bobby
name.
Drake.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Gene.
Oh
no.
But he's an Inhuman.
Yeah. Sorry, I was reading something. But anyways, okay. So he's there. He's crying.
And keep in mind that they said he's Omega 2, right?
Right. So we got to take out the Omegas first, right? Starting
Omega 2. He is the second one, but the primary one being Jean Grey.
Jean Grey, correct. So they go after Jean Grey. Jean Grey takes Juggernaut and uses him, fucking Supermans him. I thought that was just such a Dragon Ball Z cool ass looking thing.
He's the immovable object, or the unstoppable.
Perfect use of him, and boom, he goes right through it. You think they got him.
Destroys Emma's house on the Mykonos island.
Right.
Yeah. Poor Emma. Can't catch a break.
No shit, huh? Just always just doomed. And then comes in the asshole walking with his wife, right? Or what it looks like his wife.
No, that's Orcus. So that's Dr. Stasis. So that's one of the Sinister people.
Okay.
One of the Nathaniel Essex clones, and then he comes dancing in. Obviously, it's a gala, and he comes dancing in with the Omega Sentinel, which
loved it.
Karima.
Okay, that's the Omega Sentinel. That's who that is.
Yeah, that's the Omega Sentinel.
What is she?
She's basically just a smaller type Sentinel type thing, where she's basically just like a human sized Sentinel that has she's got a brain and she's got sentience and stuff. So
okay,
and she's been an enemy of the X-Men for a long time, and been with Orcus since I believe the beginning Hawks and Pox.
Okay, so. I remember her with Fei Long, correct? No.
Yep, Fei Long is also with the Orcus. So you have all these groups that they said they've been setting up. Fei Long is there. Well, he's not there on the. He's involved, but he's not there on the island. But yeah, you have Dr. Stasis and.
So you move
Omega Sentinel literally waltz through.
Right, waltz through, which is cool. I like that. That's a great scene right there. He just comes in there like he's just partying and he just does that look, and that's what I mean by characterization. Like that's perfect characterization of him.
Oh yeah,
like, fuck, that's perfect. That's him, 100%.
yeah,
So he comes in there just kind of gleaming and dancing and like, he fucked everybody over and he knows he did it and he's gonna get him. And then you got the um, Iron Man esque Sentinels coming through. And that one I
yeah.
wasn't sure on.
The Stark Sentinels.
I missed that book or whatever where that was connected in.
Yeah, I haven't been reading it, but Duggan has been writing it. So it's got
Okay.
I believe he had like in the his Iron Man run, like Orcus kind of took over his technology or took his tech or stole his tech, whatever, and they started making Sentinels out of his tech. So
Okay, I get that then. And then he comes over there and they're OP. They're pretty. They're not like normal Sentinels. These are tough ones. These ones are hard to kill.
yeah,
Um,
I think that the X-Men had to fight one of those early in the this
okay.
current team, so maybe around like issue 18 or 17 or something like that. They had to fight one, and it took the entire team to kill it. So
Oh shit.
it wasn't an
Okay.
easy task. Yeah, it
Right.
wasn't an easy
Right.
task for them.
Well,
So
the Chimera girl or whatever she is that's
yeah,
mixed
Rasputin 4.
Rasputin 4, she just beats that ass pretty much
Yeah,
pretty quick. So
has Ms. Marvel hold it for her so she can
right,
dismantle it
just
piece
fuck
by
it up.
piece. So
Yeah, which is pretty
yeah,
cool. And then Juggernaut gets just vaporized by
yeah, he's completely annihilated by basically just completely stomped by Nimrod.
Nimrod.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Okay, yeah. So Nimrod just completely vaporizes them. They move forward. You go on. Trying to go faster through this, but it's kind of hard because there's a lot going on. I mean, there's a
Yeah.
lot going on in this comic, and if you don't pick it up and look through it, you miss something pretty fast. You get Moira. Moira comes through
Moira.
there,
Yeah.
yeah, and she brings her little knife and right behind her back and stabs Jean right in the back.
Yep, and it's got blights covered in blightswill, which is called back to the Ten of Swords.
Okay,
It's basically a substance that nullifies the mutant power.
okay, that makes more sense. And I've heard that explained, and I think it says it on there too. But so, anyways, they're all gonna okay.
Yeah, you
They're
may be
ready.
right. Jean Grey
Oh, okay, yeah, there you go. Yeah, go ahead.
gives Firestar sort of a directive because Jean's dying and she knows she's dying, and so she has very little time to try to salvage anything she can. So she goes to Firestar because Firestar was kind of on the outs with the X-Men until she joined the current team, or the old team, I should say, at this point.
Right. Yeah.
So she gives her a secret objective, saying like, I think she was in Dr. Stasis's head, and she was going to implant the idea that Firestar was with Orcus since before she joined the X-Men. So she's like a sleeper agent, sort of. She kind of has her in there to kind of spy and do what she can to dismantle Orcus after Orcus has killed everybody just about. So
right, for sure. No, for sure.
But at the same time, she'll be hated by every single mutant,
right,
not knowing
right,
that she's
right, which we find out in the next X-Men.
a double agent. Yeah,
for sure. So then we get the everything closes down and they start. There's some that have these. This is the part that gets hazy to me. So now, are they getting killed as they're going through the gates? Is that what's going on?
I do not. Well, we don't
or
really
they're being
know
shot.
yet.
We're not sure yet, right? They haven't exposed
They're
that.
not. We don't really even know what's going on through the gates. So they've closed the gates for the mutants, but they've opened it for this one time so that the mutants can get off the island. And they say the assumption is that they're going to Araco, which is Mars, where mutants have terraformed Mars.
Well,
so
and that's what they're telling.
Yeah, but so we don't really find out till after, I guess, towards the end. So spoiler alert if you haven't already read it or whatever. But at the end, you find out that Xavier can't feel them or sense them. But there is a little hint of maybe what happened, and it's not guaranteed. But Mother Righteous has showed up, and she's taken. There's an island of Krakoa that showed up in the Atlantic Ocean, and she has taken it in one of her special magic orbs or sort of snow globe type thing. Yeah, I think the idea, I don't know if it's not, obviously it's not been confirmed yet, but the idea is that maybe Mother Righteous did something and has taken these mutants and put them in her little special island in her snow globe magic place. So we don't know yet. May all be wrong. They may all have been spaced.
No, that makes a lot more sense than what I was thinking. I was like, the way that kind of came off is like they were being grinded up and killed or what? Like,
well, I think they use a line like meat grinder.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Which is what he assumes. I think everybody, he assumes that he'd sent them to the
He
meat
assumes
grinder,
I
but
killed them all. They're all dead. That's exactly what he says. They're all dead, and I killed them. And now leave me and go avenge them. He's telling Rogue,
mhm.
right? So then we go on. Rogue takes off flying, and he's just pouting like like he just fucked his world up. I get it. Everybody's
Yeah.
dead. He's sad. As the fall of X starts, in which immediately caught my attention and brought me back into these comics. I was like, oh, okay, this feels like something we should be involved in again and get into, right? So we go from that, and then we find out. And now, how important is it for you to read the next X-Men comic?
Well, there's a bit of like at the end of that Hellfire Gala, there's a bit of like a almost like a post-credit scene where Lourdes, that's kind of a whole callback to like Sebastian Shaw's one of his paramours that I don't think they've been on the outs, but she can tell. She's a mutant with the ability to teleport. So she
Mm,
takes the remaining people that haven't gone through the gate. They use their technique that Xavier gave them to resist because he forces the mutants to go through with his telepathy,
right,
telling them, like, forcing them to go through. Well, the ones obviously that have been trained by him, trained not to be able to resist it, have resisted, and they're left. And so um, Orcus gives the idea, saying like, if any of the mutants come back to Earth, he will kill. If one mutant comes back, he'll kill 10 humans, and if another mutant comes back,
right,
he'll kill 100. So he's like, clearly he's you know get the hell off my planet kind of deal.
right. Yeah. Goodbye.
Um,
Goodbye. Right.
so they're the ones that are left are then teleported to um, the old Hellfire Club in New York. I believe it's in New York.
That's right.
Um,
Yep.
and while they're kind of sitting there waiting to figure out what's going on, Kate, who's classic Kitty Pryde, she leans against the gates. She did it earlier in the book because she can't go through them, and the gates have been turned off. Nobody can use the gates. They can't get anywhere. And she leans against it and falls through. So that's the first time she's been able to use a gate, and she falls through right to where a little group of like 10 Orcus guys are, and she's kind of like, uh-oh. And that's where it closes, where you're just kind of left on a cliffhanger. What the hell happened to Kate? She fell through. So what's going to happen?
Right. And that's one of the better parts of the next X-Men book, I thought, where she
It's
just
great.
goes
It's
through
great. Well,
and
she has to.
whoops some ass
Like
there.
the whole idea, like, the mutants' laws are kill no human. Well, she kind of has to because
Right.
if they find out that she can go through the gates, it could spell big trouble. This is a secret she has to keep, like, to her, to her grave. She's got to keep the secret from humans and Orcus that she can go through the gates because everyone assumes that the mutants can't use the gates anymore.
Right. So you got Kitty Pryde, who gets kind of confusing in some of these spots with her, and she's talking about she's Kitty Pryde, but she's not Kitty Pryde, and I don't know, it gets a little
She was back in like the 80s. She was trained by Wolverine to be sort of like a assassin killer type person, and then she was also trained. She was kidnapped and briefly trained by a character named Ogun, which is a ninja.
right.
Um, and then for a while she went by the name Shadowcat. So she's had quite a few.
Shadowcat. Yeah, that's the name
Yeah,
I was thinking of myself.
it's an old
Now,
sort of. I mean, everyone knows that she's Shadowcat, but she hasn't gone by that in a long time. So she kind of reverts back to her Shadowcat assassin type ways, I should say.
right. So, you got some more time? We go through the rest of 25. Are you good with that?
Sure.
Okay, cool. So we get Katie Pryde. Again, I like this. This is one of the better ones. She's sitting down there. It almost seems like to me when I first saw this. What did you think
Right.
of when you saw this? Right away when you
Well,
saw
that's a
it.
nice little scene where like this
It
is
is.
before she's gone to Krakoa. She goes and talks to her rabbi. I guess that's
Right.
who that person
But,
is.
but what did you
And
get? What is there a movie that you could think of that made you think of?
no, you tell me. What do you got?
Dude, you didn't get The Matrix? Where she's sitting in the park and on the park
I
bench
guess
and
so.
she's
I get
talking to
it. Yeah, yeah.
Neo and
There you
Neo's
go.
going over like the new world and all that kind of stuff and like how they're gonna try to negotiate a plan or a deal and man, that's exactly what I thought as soon as I saw it. I was like, oh yeah, it's like Matrix, like they're talking about the world, but she's going. It's her rabbi, correct? But I thought
Yeah, this is her rabbi.
rabbis can't be women, right? I mean, am I wrong?
In I think in Reform Judaism they can be. I believe.
Okay, I don't
It's
know too
not
much.
nor I don't think it's normal in like Orthodox, but
Okay, because that's what I
don't
thought
quote me
to
on that because I
myself.
don't.
I was like,
I'm
yeah,
not Jewish. I don't know everything,
okay,
but I do believe in the Reform in Reform Judaism they can have female rabbis.
Okay. Well, see, I learned something new every day. So she's over feeding them. She's talking about what is she talking about? Her. Let me see. I actually bounced my head off that door and busted my nose. I can walk through it, except the door, my darling. Ah, yes, my friends, my family. I have a home, but it's not for me. I'm trying to remember exactly what it was. It was like the main point of the conversation. And she's kind of not sure if she's a mutant. That's what it was, right? She's not
Right,
sure if
because she
she's a
can't go through the
mutant.
gate. Yeah.
Right. Am I a mutant? Does it matter if I'm a mutant? She's not sure. And I mean, the rabbi says some wonderful things. She just wants to make sure she's still believing in God.
Yep.
And that's the most important scenario out of all of it. And that is right. She's like, does it matter if you're a mutant? No, it matters is that you believe in there's a creator, something
Hmm.
greater than yourself, and that's what's most important. Which is a great scene, I thought. Right?
Yeah, no, it's a beautiful little scene. It's a beautiful art. I have to look back. I have to go to the first
Well, can
page
you
here to
see
see.
it? Can you see it on
Oh,
the
it's
screen?
Caselli. So
Yeah.
Joshua, or is it? No, it's gosh, what's his name? I'll try to grab it real quick. I don't know, but the art in this book is just it's gorgeous. It looks great.
It is. It is good art for sure. For sure. For sure. For sure. So then we get it, and even looking like, yeah, look at this art on this gate. I love the art in the gate when they do that, when they have the opaque look,
Hmm.
Oh, I love that. It's wonderful. And then the stars and the sky. That's what makes good art to me. It's not just the faces and the up close stuff. It's the backgrounds. Like you see the backgrounds with the stars.
Hmm.
Oh, that's just gorgeous. It's beautiful. I love that. So, anyways, she appears at this haunted looking place, right? X weeks ago. While you slept, Orcus changed the world, right? Um, they launched a false
This
flag.
is sort of a callback to the original While You Slept. The
Dude, tell
mutants
me, tell me.
change
I'm
the
not
world.
sure.
So
Bring it up to me.
it's a callback to the House of X, where that was one of the lines was While You Slept, the world changed.
Ah,
So
that's right. That's right. I do remember that. That was one of the. Okay. There's a lot going on in those books. You got to give me a little bit of space because there's a
no, you're
lot.
good.
So, anyways, she
And
starts
just
going
another shout
over.
out. So the art's great, but shout out to the colorist. I think it's Marte Gracia. He's a really, really wonderful colorist, and it really elevates the art in this book for sure.
No, it does. And the art does the color itself does look different than it has looked in the past.
Well,
The
he's Marte Gracia. He was working with Pepe Larraz when Pepe Larraz was on the art um, throughout pretty much the entire time that Pepe Larraz was doing it. So it's nice, even though the art might not be the most consistent. The coloring has typically been pretty consistent when Marte Gracia has been doing it, and he's just a great colorist. It looks great.
It does for sure. Preach on, preach on. So
So she goes to the Westchester mansion and gets out her old swords. Yeah,
okay, and these are the ones that Ogon had taken over her soul at this time and was controlling
some
her.
yeah
Because that was
yeah
that was that was an old. I read that book
yeah
too. There was Katie and Ogun, and he took over her and didn't
yep.
want to give her back, and she had to fight to get herself
Hmm.
back as a person. And then he writes this on the swords: "You'll forever be the weapon that made you, Shadowcat from Ogun." And
Hmm.
what does that mean? I'm a little confused. You will
He
forever be
made her
the
into a
weapon
weapon,
that
right?
made you.
She's
Right.
the weapon, right? Yeah,
In other words, like you can't get away from it. That's who you are.
yeah.
Okay. Right. And then she's reading on the massacre. They're going through it. You see,
So yeah, so here we go. Doctor Stasis is the clubs. He's not the. So that would be Orbis Stellaris the spade, the
preach
spade
on, man.
headed.
You know more about this stuff than I ever could. So just if you see
I just
something,
try to remember when
go
I'm going
ahead.
through. I'm like,
No,
gosh,
go
who's
ahead.
what at this point? So yeah.
Yeah, no. This is why I wanted to do this with you because I'm not experienced in this stuff. So for me to hear this is great knowledge that you're kicking up here. Then and I'm eating it up. So go ahead. You know something, speak on it. So okay, what's going on here? He's kind of propagating that um these mutants we still need to there's still good one out there, right? And he's talking about Firestar, and they're saying, "Oh, she
Right.
turned, and she's still a good one." And inside, this is kind of her like she's dying inside, but she's playing it
Yeah,
off
it's
like, of
great where
course,
she turns to try to show the gate she can't go through, and she's crying because she's obviously very deeply affected by this whole thing. She's struggling, right?
right. And then we got a what is this? A writer?
It's Ben Urich.
That's Ben Urich. I
Yeah,
thought
that's
Ben
Ben.
Urich was black. No, maybe I'm thinking
I
of.
was thinking of what's his name? The other guy from the Bugle,
Oh, okay,
the Spider-Man guy.
yeah.
Gosh, I'm
I thought it
I'd
was
have
Ben Urich. Anyways, it don't matter.
to.
And I'm sure does means
I
less.
think he was black
He's in
in
the show.
maybe
He's in
the
the show. He's
Daredevil
black.
show. The
That's
Daredevil show, he's
exactly what
black.
it is. Yes, that's
Yeah,
right. That's right. Okay. Yep.
I think
So
Robertson. Robertson is the Bugle guy that's black.
okay,
Robbie
got it.
Robertson or
Got it.
Robert.
Got
Yeah.
it. Got it. So keep going forward, and we'll just. I'm gonna let it play out, and you tell me what's going on here. Okay. So now, this character to me, it is um, Cyclops, correct? But he's dressed up
Well,
as
this
Captain
himself is not
Orkoa.
Cyclops. That's
This
somebody
is
else.
not
Like the Orcus, they did like a false flag attack then that was part of the whole deal is, everything kind of happened at once. They did a false flag attack. They kind of attacked Captain America with quote unquote Captain Krakoa, although it wasn't Cyclops. Cyclops went to go help, and the treehouse in Central Park was during the gala was being attacked, so he went to go deal with that. Um,
Oh, that's right. He got an alert from.
mhm.
Yeah. Right. Was
So
fake
he went to deal
fake
with that.
alerts, right? Yeah.
It was a fake. Well, it was a real alert, but he didn't realize the I think it was the amount of shit going on. It was all, like I said, everything that Orcus has been working on behind the scenes all kind of coalesced onto that one night. They had a lot of sticks in the fire, so to speak.
Are they implicating that Captain America could be a part of Orcus, or
No, 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 no. They were
because
he's clearly not, and I think that's part of the reason. So there's a new book coming out. So he was sort of mentioned in um, they mentioned him in Hellfire Gala, saying like, oh, they don't have life signs for Tony, and that's when before the because I think in like the second gala he showed up and didn't like it. It might have been the first one, I don't remember. He didn't want to come back to any of these things.
yeah,
Um,
okay, yeah,
and
he
so they
was in the
said, oh,
first one for
that
sure.
his
Yeah.
his life signs or his vital signs aren't reading. And then I think that someone asked, like, does that happen often? And I think the Avengers were like, never. So they all left. Rogue is also a card carrying member of the Avengers. Her card says, alert. So she's like, I gotta go. It's Steve. I gotta go. So she has
Okay.
left at this point. So
Okay. So
to go try to help.
this Captain Krakoa is not
It's not
Cyclops.
actually Cyclops. It's
Okay.
clearly they faked it. So because I think they faked like a terrorist attack.
Okay. Gotcha. All right.
I don't remember. They might have done it on the president. I'm not exactly sure. I
All right.
can't remember
Yes.
at this point. I'd have
So
to go
here it
back
is,
and look.
and there's Fei Long who
Hmm. Talking to the president.
talking to the president, and yeah, there's a couple lines in there. I was like, yes, it's unnecessary, but that's neither here nor there. And this kind of bothered me too. Okay, this ain't the kind of stream where we're gonna sit here and cry about the shit. But why do they bring this up? You know what this is, right? Agari,
Oh, you have to tell
Agar.
me. Obviously, because you were in the
I
military.
do, I do,
Yeah.
I do. This is what happened was there was there was this camp where they had a lot of these terrorists had gone, right?
Mhm.
Now you have to remember we're in a wartime situation where 9/11 just hit, the buildings just fell. We're not sure what's going on, and by no means in no world would I ever say it's okay for torture or anything of that
Sure.
level to exist. It's never okay. Um, but they embarrassed these highly religious motivated terrorists.
Hmm.
They embarrassed them. They put them naked. They spanked them. They had the women spank them, and it was inappropriate by leaps and bounds. Okay, but
Hmm.
for them to mention it as something that's going on here in an X-Men book, I felt like it was bad taste.
Well, my guess is that Jerry Duggan wrote this. My guess is he wasn't aware of what happened, maybe as much as say you or
Right.
somebody else. So then maybe he's just
Yeah.
referring to it being like this is a bad thing. But I think the idea is that this prison
Right.
is
It's
nicer
ran well.
than
Right.
it's a very it's a very nice prison. It's a very
Right.
your freedom's being taken from you, but in a very nice way.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You guys are being treated great. You should be happy, kind of a
Yeah, you should
thing,
be
right?
happy you're here.
Look how
Yeah,
good it is. Yeah.
you get three
Exactly.
square meals. You get TV. What else do you want?
Right. Right. These mutants are lucky that we
Yeah, they're
have
lucky that they're here. Yeah.
compassionate. Yeah, we're lucky that we're so compassionate. We don't seek to harm them. Oh my goodness. Yeah, we got, and again, that's exactly how you would see him saying this. Correct. This is Doctor Stasis.
Yeah, he's obviously he's a piece of work. So he's he
Right.
obviously and and we didn't mention it in Hellfire Gala, but he did threaten basically anybody that took the Krakoan meds. The
Oh
Orcus
yeah. Yep.
had had rewritten the whatever the stuff in the meds so that he could actually use it to kill people or torture people or harm them in some way. So he threatened basically anybody who'd taken the Krakoan meds, and obviously the fallout of that, if they were to all die, would be that the mutants would be blamed for that as well. So kind of a
Correct.
no-win situation for the mutants at this point.
Correct. I mean, just kind of fucked. And then you find Cyclops has his fucking eyes sewn together. Just that
Eyes sewn together, and I
scene.
do believe that his back was broken. He couldn't move it, like in the Hellfire Gala. He couldn't move his legs. He
Oh
was
shit.
he's he's a quadriplegic or paraplegic, I should say, probably
Right.
most
Right.
likely at this point. Which is maybe he's going to get a sweet hover chair. We'll find out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe, right? Right.
And I do
So
love that they put him in the '90s. The Jim
I
Lee
love
era.
it. I love
It's
it.
great.
I love it. It's a cool outfit. You got all the pouches and everything.
Oh
I
yeah,
love it. So okay. And you hear Fei Long losing his, or not Fei Long, Dr. Stasis losing his shit. You pig headed ignoramus. It's over and we won. Accept my mercy. I love it. It's just
yeah.
perfect, right?
He's just a piece of shit. So
Yeah. He is. No,
yeah,
I know
it's
your
great. He's a great
eyesight.
villain.
I love
It's
it.
nice that we have a new villain. It's
He,
even though he's sinister-ish,
he's
he's
sinister-ish, and
sinister adjacent.
he says, "I know your eyesight isn't what it used to be." I love it. It's perfect. His fucking eyesight, his eyes are sewn together. I
Yeah,
fucking love it, man. I'm sorry, that's evil, but Jesus is great. It just feels good that we finally got some damn good villains, right?
yeah,
We
it's
haven't had
great.
villains.
Everybody, you
Everybody's
have
been,
this whole
yeah,
group, and don't forget, like we didn't mention it, but MODOK is also part of Orcus. So
that's
you've
right.
got MODOK, you've got Nimrod, who's a classic X-Men villain they brought back, and yeah, a whole host of people, all hating mutants in the X-Men, and
So the
maybe
X Men,
deservedly so in some way, but maybe not to this extent. But I get it. There's a lot of people are not very happy with the mutants at this point.
right, right,
And
right,
now all of Earth
exactly.
seems to be against mutants at this point as well. So
Well, they've
they all
they've
think that
they've
the
poisoned
mutants.
everybody. Yeah, they're money hungry. They've took off
Yeah,
on their own to this wonderful, luxurious place where they have all the medicine that'll make them feel good all the time, and they're not sharing it, and everything is crazy expensive. And those assholes, you can
yeah,
imagine the regular person would be like, "Fuck these guys, man. I hope they die. Fuck them."
yeah. And then they terraformed Mars, so they've got a whole planet now.
Right, right. Which, what's going on at Mars right now? The girl I know, what's her name, shows up.
Genesis from
Yeah,
Amen,
Genesis
which
shows
is
up, and yeah. Now is she gonna
she
beat
shows up, and
Storm's
that's
ass
part of
or
the reason
what?
why Storm. That's part of the reason why Storm is not on Krakoa during the Hellfire Gala. She's dealing with
Okay.
politics up on Mars/Krakoa or Araco.
Now
So
is Genesis gonna beat Storm's ass or what?
I don't know. Can she? Can she even beat Storm's ass? I'm not
That's my
sure.
question. That's my
I
question. I
don't
don't know.
know. I don't know. Nobody so far has been able to beat Storm's ass. So,
Right,
um,
right. She's been OP, but she's acting like she could, and then I mean she didn't have the annihilation helmet no more, right? It's gone.
she's got, but no, yeah. So she
She has a
doesn't have the helmet,
staff.
but it's been turned into a staff. It was turned into a staff by
Okay.
mem, what is it? Omniversal Magistrix
Okay.
Saturnine.
Now tell me this, and I mean this from a very innocent idea, not anything else, just innocent to a degree. Was she black before?
Storm?
No.
Who?
Genesis.
Genesis? I think she still kind of is, right? Isn't she still? She kind
No,
of.
she's
I think she
definitely
was.
She's
She always has
100%
been.
black
Yeah,
now, but I before I was like, I don't
I think she
remember. I thought she
was.
was blue. Wasn't she blue?
I mean, maybe
Oh,
during some of
because
the
she had the
coloring,
helmet on.
maybe with the helmet on, she kind of had a blue tint to her. I'm not sure,
Okay.
but I think she
Yeah.
was always kind of like, black. And I mean, like Apocalypse is from Egypt. I imagine when he was on his, journey across the, places, I'm sure that's where he met
Okay.
somewhere in Africa. He probably met his wife
And that makes
Genesis.
sense
So
then, right? That makes
yeah,
sense for sure. Okay, so Shadowcat, we need to talk, and this is Sync, right?
yep, sync.
Sync. So Sync follows her in, and
He can
she's
borrow her power to get in there. So
right. Oh, that's what he does. He borrows power from people.
hmm
Correct. I thought he can
and he
also raise them up, right?
no, he could just borrow their power,
Okay.
or he not like borrow it. He can mimic it, right? He syncs with them. So,
Okay.
and he could use people's powers that it's better if he's close to them, but if he's far away, he can also like recall the power, but at great cost to himself. So he starts having issues. Like he's, at great cost to his
It
body.
takes some of his life, right? Like he
Yeah, I
loses
think
some.
it makes him older. So,
Yeah. Okay. That's what it
so a lot of
is.
times he'll be like, emergency. I gotta draw from, the Gene's power, but Gene's, far away, so it messes him up a bit. So, yeah.
Okay. And so the other part's not that important, but we get this part right here where is this Orcus right here? Or what is this? The most
Yeah,
accurate for me?
that's
Explain this
Orcus,
to
and
me.
those are the Sentinels, right? The Stark Sentinels. So
Okay, and this is Earth or Mars? This is Earth,
I would
right?
believe I believe that's one of
Looks
those is
blue.
Mars, and the other one I think is uh, Phobos. Is that the moon that
Okay.
what's his name is operating? Fei Long is operating on.
All right, and this is
So and
Sword
then
right here, right? Sword.
Thor does. I'm not sure. I don't remember. I don't recall what that big blue thing is there, but I think the one above it is a storage station. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. So they're at this now. What planet is this right here? Is this Mars or what's going on here?
Um,
So we're that one weird
yeah,
alien.
that's
Yeah,
Mars. So Mars is
this is
kind of
Mars.
having
Okay.
some issues because of everything that's been going on. So,
Okay. And Genesis is the one causing this issue, but they
hmm
also shut the gates down, right?
hmm
So how the hell does Kate end up over here? She goes through the gates anyway?
she can
I
go
didn't
through the
quite get
gates.
that.
Remember, she
She could
used to not be able
phase
to,
through it. Okay,
but
get it.
once the gates were
Get it.
closed to mutants, she can then walk
Okay.
through them.
See, that makes more sense now because before she couldn't
One
because
of her
they were
powers, so she can phase, but when she
right.
phases, frequently she disrupts technology. So that's one of her. And I
Ah,
think she was thrown through a Sentinel in Hellfire Gala, and it messed it up and like turned it off, kind of thing. Like it shut it down.
okay.
So
So you're seeing
one
the
of her
plot
classic powers.
points.
If she phases through things, it distorts the technology some. She can break technology if she phases through it. So
Got it. Got it. And that makes sense. Now this is
which is
just
maybe
some
why that
random
now that
alien.
the technology's been changed, she can now go through. I'm not sure.
Well, remember she wasn't able to get through the egg until she
hmm
phased through the egg,
hmm
and the egg. Now we find out the gates are solid, so now she can phase through it because it's solid.
That may be very much
It
why. Yeah.
it tracks to a degree, correct?
Yeah,
It tracks.
it's cool, and
Okay,
it's a great little callback and story. It's all kind
it
of
is.
built into this stuff, so
And,
it's good.
and that's what I enjoy. Those things. That's what I enjoy for sure.
Yeah,
So now we get this little alien, and I mean,
he's
she's definitely not the
an Araco
regular.
mutant, right? So
Right,
this is
right,
looks alien, but yeah, mutant
right.
full, from the old Araco.
No, this one's from Chicago.
Oh, this is
I'm
from that's
Woofer
right.
from
He's Woofer,
Chicago.
yeah, Woofer from
Yeah,
Chicago.
that's right. That's right. That's Woofer. So Woofer gets told this. Hey, we need you to start collecting and figuring out who's who, figure out what we got up here, kind of a thing, right?
hmm
And who the hell is this guy? Am I supposed to know this guy?
No, I think he's just some guy.
Just
He just
random
shows up.
guy
He's
that
just
doesn't want
he's
to.
got to create a distraction, so he's got to do his best to
Okay,
give Kitty Pride her little bit of space.
right. And so Kitty Pride is now probably going to be a huge plot point, correct?
Very much so.
Moving
I
forward,
think she's
right?
gonna, I think the next several X-Men books. I imagine she'll show up in some of the other books that are going on. I don't know. I don't think she'll show up in Immortal, and she probably won't show up in the Children of the Vault. But I think she's got, she's kind of the most important
Right.
mutant at this point in time because she can
Right.
go
She's the
through the
only one,
gates.
pretty
hmm
much. Oh, it's Sync too, right? Because Sync could follow her.
He might be able to, right? That's another
Right.
thing. Can Sync go
Yeah,
through
yeah.
because he can copy her power? I don't know. He
And maybe
hasn't
that's
tried
why
it
they
yet. We haven't
showed us
seen
that, and that makes more sense, right? They showed us that part
totally.
where she, before it's like random, but now you think about it, oh well, now Sync can do the same thing, so maybe
Hmm.
together they can do something important here. But anyway, so then now we end off at, and these are the children of the vault, right? Do you
Hmm.
know who they are?
I don't remember their names. I'd have to go and look them up. But yeah, these
Okay.
are all the children of the vault. There's only like there's like 8 or 10 of them or something like that that we've
Okay.
seen. I think there's more, but the ones that we see, there's a certain group of them.
Got it.
Yeah,
And this was actually, I mean, I know some people didn't like it, but I kind of liked it. I thought it
this
was
is
just
great.
nice.
It's cute. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
we're letting your family know, like we've erased the memory that you're dead because you were resurrected a day later. Uh,
Right. Right. No shit.
like
Apparently, be
just go
pretty
here,
messed up.
pretend
Yeah.
you're not a mutant, enjoy your life because they're just trying to be nice and be like, listen, you don't have anything to do with this. You've never been involved with this. You don't have to be in all of this anymore. Just go home, be with your family,
Right.
stay safe.
Right.
But
Just enjoy your
obviously,
family. Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
obviously, Kamala can't do that
Nope. Quickly turns around and finds out she needs to be a part
immediately.
of this. Yeah. Like next 10 minutes. Yeah.
Yep, she's
But it's
back
good.
immediately. It's great.
So
It's
I've
good characterization for her.
it is, and it's actually doing something with her. Before she was just kind of wandering,
Hmm.
Neanderthing
Well, she wants to be a part
around.
now. She's all part of this whole deal. So she wants to help the mutant
Right.
underground. So
Right. Right. And they're in the Morlocks
the Morlock,
caverns.
yeah, in the sewers, I would say almost. But
Correct.
so
Correct.
I don't
So
know how many
here,
Morlocks are down there, but
I haven't seen
there's
any
got to
of
be a
them yet. I
few.
don't know if they're all gone or what, but you know,
So here's a
yeah.
little preview to the Uncanny X-Men book that's going to be, or sorry, the Uncanny Avengers book that's going to be coming out.
Okay.
Maybe next week. I'm not exactly sure.
You
I'd have to look
explain
and
it to
see.
me as
But
much as you can. Go ahead.
it was there was a book that came out. I mean, it's I don't know how old it is at this point. Maybe 10, 12 years old. But there was an Uncanny Avengers book that came out not that long ago. Um, that kind of had it was a lot of it was an Avenger team with a lot of X-Men on it. So
Okay.
so this is kind of a what they're doing there, and I think they've also got. Oh, so next week there's I'm looking here, X-Men Red and Dark X-Men coming out next week. So the Dark X-Men team being um, Havoc and Gambit, Archangel, stuff like that. So you have some of the old, you know,
Old schools. Okay.
mm,
Now, have you read
Madeline
that?
Pryor.
You read the Wolverine book? Is that connected? The Wolverine Ghost Rider?
I am not sure. I haven't read it yet because I haven't read any books from today. This came out today. I haven't read it
Yeah.
yet. Although I did get the Perez cover because I had to. Um,
This is the part though I really liked right here though, right? It's where she actually like you see what she's made of here, right?
mhm.
How she
And
can.
she sort of did this. If you read, I think it was Marauders #1. She did something similar, not nearly as brutal, but similar when she went into Russia. She went through a gate to Russia and had to beat the hell out of a bunch of Russian soldiers who were trying to keep the mutants from going into the gate. So this is sort of a almost a callback to that. Although this is obviously much more brutal because she can't
Have
leave any
you
of them alive.
this is I know this is off subject, but
Hmm.
have you had a chance? Did you read any manga at all?
I read some.
Have you had a chance to read oh man, what's the name of the book? The one with Deku and all the oh man, it's a real popular book. It's with the kids. It's like an X-Men book, but it's
I haven't read it then.
yeah, no, it's not X-Men, but it's the high school kind of a deal. I'll have to look it up and show you. But anyways, the one character in that book, he is a phasing kind of
Hmm.
person. And if you ever get a chance to check out, I'm gonna tell you what it is here in a minute because I'm gonna remember. But um, the way he uses his powers is similar to this. The way she's using hers right here,
Hmm.
'cause he has the same exact powers she does.
Right, he can phase through
He
stuff
can
and then
phase through
phase
anything.
phase
Yeah,
people through stuff too as well. I
right,
assume.
right. And it's oh man, the way that they do it, holy shit, dude! It's badass. It's just like this, and I know it makes you wonder why they never decided till now to start making her a badass. Like she could have done a
Well,
lot
like I
of
said,
stuff
if
before.
you read Marauders #1 by Jerry Duggan,
I did
when
actually. I do.
and
That's the
and
one. The only Marauders book I read was that one, and I do remember her doing some cool shit. And then I remember it kind of ended after that.
yeah, then she was on. Then it became more political at that point. So
Right. It was all political with the
Shaw and Emma
Shaw.
Frost,
Yeah.
and yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Which I get it, but still, this is
these are some brutal kills. Like she's
it's
phasing people through
badass. I
through the
love it.
ground. phasing
Yeah.
people into each other, phase that dude's gun into his head. Like
That perfect, man. Like that's fucking
it's brutal.
unstoppable. Yeah, you can't shoot her, you can't throw things at her. She walks up and fucking drops something inside of them and they blow
Yeah,
up.
blow them up
Fucking
with grenades. Yeah,
badass. I loved it. That's perfect.
it's
You
nice.
know?
She's in Israel. She's in Jerusalem while she's doing this, which is kind of nice after the beginning of the book where she's meeting with
Right.
her rabbi. So
Fucking Mortal Kombat's that motherfucker. Wygum right through. Pulls his fucking
oh
heart
yeah.
out. I love it, dude. Perfect. Breaks the dude's neck. Like, thank you, sir. This
Yeah,
is
well,
what
she's
I've been
got to. I
wanting.
mean, like he was like, "The X-Men saved me. I'm sorry," and she's like, "Well, I can't. Dead men tell
Yeah.
no tales." So,
Right. Sorry, bro.
and I think she hid the bodies. They said she hid the bodies. She like phased them through the ground or the roof or whatever it was. So they're never be seen, never be found.
Damn.
So
Yeah. No, that was that's a
obviously
great scene.
she's got some PTSD now. So
This is what made these books attractive though. This is what it should have been. Like this is
mhm.
this is X-Men right here. So I feel like it's an X-Men book that I can get behind. So, okay. There we go. That was number 26. Astonishing Iceman. I don't know if you had a chance to read that one.
Yeah, it's okay. It's fine. It's just like Iceman's a little messed up after we thought he was dead, but it's a little hard to kill Iceman. So
No,
uh,
right. Right.
I think he can. I think he can like regrow himself from like a single snowflake kind of deal. That's
Okay.
the yeah.
Okay. I've heard somebody give it, I mean they didn't they gave it a terrible review. Cuz they and that's the thing though, the big thing is that when somebody doesn't like a book and they give a review on it, they're going to point out the shit that absolutely like can be teetered left or right. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like you're saying, oh, he came from this. They're like, oh, well, the gay guy created um uh Iceman out of nothing, and it's this gay thing. It's just either way, can we just find a nice in the middle? And that's kind of what I want to try to do. It's kind of be in the
Yeah,
middle
it's
here.
fine if you don't like. I mean, I know people that that aren't happy with the change they made for Bobby Drake because they've read him their whole life. For 30, 40 years, and they thought of him one way, and then they always changed it. And I understand that. I don't.
Yeah,
It's a little weird, but if you don't like it, don't read it. That's all. You
that's
don't have
true.
to.
To me, it feels forced, and it feels like we're working too hard to put things in a box. I've never read a book because I felt like I was that character. You know what I mean? I've read books because I like the way that character acts.
Sure,
The
and
way
maybe you
he
want to emulate that or something.
right, I want to emulate that spirit that they have, that energy, that force that I've always looked at myself like I was Wolverine was my dude. You can see back there I got I have every Wolverine you could possibly think of. That was my guy when I was young because I was an angry ass dude. That was my deal. I like that. So that's what I went after. I didn't go, oh, Wolverine is Canadian. He's white. I like him
He's
because he's
short.
short.
He's
Yeah,
hairy.
like perfect. Like that's me. Yes. No, I never did that once. It was just like, okay, I like the way he acts, the way he thinks, the way his mentality is. And I
Yeah.
feel like that is a spot that we're not hitting on. Like, who cares what they look like? Let's talk about who they are. Like the inner portion of their spirit, their what they
All right. You just want it
represent,
to be. You want it to be not so surface level. Some
for
deeper stuff.
sure. A hundred
Yeah.
percent.
I
Yeah,
get you.
exactly. Which that's just my wishes, I guess.
Yeah. But
But
like you said,
we
if you're
did
not into it, if you don't like Bobby Drake being who he is now, don't read Astonishing Iceman.
right.
I still
It
like the
doesn't.
fact that he's an Omega level mutant, but he's too dumb to know that he's as powerful as he is. So
Well,
he's uh, that's kind of the fun thing, right? Like I think I forget what it might have been. Was it New X-Men or whatever it was? Was it Grant Morrison? I don't know. I forget who it was, but it was like Emma Frost took over his mind and was like, "You could do so much, but he's too stupid to know he can
Mm,
do anything with his own power."
oh
So
shit. Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of
I
fun.
I
I
see
like that.
that. I see that. Yeah.
Yeah,
We
he's an
me and
idiot.
my
I mean, he's
daughter.
great, but
Me and my daughter have read. We just got done reading the first I think it's like up to like 40 or 60, 1 through 60 X-Men.
The
and
originals, the original run.
the originals, the Stan
It's a
Lee.
little. It's okay. It doesn't
It
really start picking up until like really giant size is when it really.
Right, giant. Of course, of course. That's the characters I know, I recognize.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Before that, it seems like they're kind of goofy,
They're
but
kind of goofy, and like
Iceman
Marvel
was
Girl, or in this case Jean
right.
Grey, is just kind of like the useless woman character. It's kind of sad,
Yeah,
but
I
that's
you
a.
see, I never thought that. I never thought that. I know I'm reading it. I never felt like that. I felt like she was a woman, but she wasn't like this. Um, I never felt like she was. People say that a lot. I hear that like she wasn't important. She wasn't a strong character, but I think she was. I think she really
Well, I
was,
mean that was
and she was
yeah,
necessary. She just
yeah,
had a
yeah.
lot of shit going on. Like
It really wasn't until I mean they didn't really have there wasn't really many female characters, powerful female as far as like power female characters
right,
until I guess the Phoenix really was the kind of the kickoff for that. They hadn't in the Marvel universe hadn't seen anything like that before. So
right,
um,
and a lot of it too is like maybe I know what she becomes. So maybe
yeah,
I don't. I kind of look at it. Oh, well, she acts like this. I did see there's a lot of sexualization with the boys, but they're
yeah,
teenagers. Like they write them perfect. They're fucking
yeah.
teenagers acting like
Or young kids acting like
teenagers.
idiots. Yeah,
Yeah, they're like perfect for that
but they're
era,
also like
perfect for
child
that thing.
soldiers, which is kind of like Charles. What are
A
you
little
doing,
fucked
man?
up. No, right? Not yeah.
But at the
But you
same time,
see,
I mean, you can say the
he
same thing
didn't
about
have.
Batman, though. To be fair, because Batman's got Robin, and he's like, it's like
Oh
this is a
yeah,
child
oh
soldier
yeah,
Batman. What are you
right,
doing, man?
right. No shit, kid, tiny kid. But you see, like he never had nefarious thoughts. He was like,
No, yeah,
we're mutants. You're like the only ones in existence. That's kind of what the idea was. Like you guys are all
there
there
weren't many
is.
of them. You're right. There weren't six
Right,
thousand of them that are have
right,
names and power
exactly. It's such
now.
an yeah,
There was a handful of
exactly.
them, and you guys just gotta make the world a better place. So
All right. So, Kyle, any final thoughts on these two? I mean, we'll probably go from here. Maybe you get another day. We can go through the rest of it and catch everybody up.
sure.
Kind of going late now,
Yeah.
so
Final thoughts. I don't know if you like the X Men, if you like I think well put together events. If you're into that sort of stuff, it's a great book. The art's been good. Obviously, like I think the Hellfire Gala this year's. I mean, there was it's 77 pages I think, and it's there's tons of writers or sorry tons of artists, but you know what? It all looks good. They bring back some good. They've got Pepe Larraz, they've got Skeety. They got all these guys that are kind of coming back who haven't done well. Pepe Larraz hasn't done a book for Marvel in a while, at least an X Men book. So it's nice to see some of the art again. If you're into good art, you're into good writing, and an exciting story, something that's different than we've seen so far. Maybe it's a good idea to pick it up. And if you enjoy it, you can always go back, pick up some dollar bin issues of some old Krakoa era stuff, and shouldn't be too hard to find.
for sure, that's a very popular run. Are you on any YouTube? Are you planning on doing anything like
I'm
that,
just
or this is just a
I'm just a guy that shows up
you're
when.
my designated hand over here, right?
Yeah, yeah. I got no social media.
Perfect.
I'm off the grid.
Hey, I hear you, man. I'm kind of the same spot. It's part of being a dad, but
Yeah,
um, so I want to thank you so much for
yeah, man.
coming
Thanks for
and
having me.
doing this. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it a lot, and I learned a lot. And that's kind of
Different
what I
perspective.
wanted to
You
do.
get a different perspective on somebody, especially somebody who's been reading a lot. So I know that there's a lot of things that have been set up and paying off, and if you haven't been reading it, I understand for a lot of people, if you haven't been reading it, like you don't maybe understand every character, everything going on, but there's I'm sure there's plenty of videos online explaining everything, and there's plenty of issues around. These things have been selling pretty well, so there's always an easy way to find them. Um, yeah, so take a look.
For sure. And any questions you guys have, go ahead and leave them down there, and I'll talk to Kyle about him answering them. Stuff I don't know. And thank you for being here. Like, subscribe, do all that kind of cool stuff. Kyle, hopefully we can get you back on maybe next week.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. It was great to have you on, buddy. And
Thanks, man.
I'll see you, my Wednesday warrior brother.
Oh
Take
yeah.
care.
See you later.
All right, buddy. Bye.